Hey folks, I'm Josh, and welcome back to the shop. Today, we're going to turn a top. As far as wooden tops go, probably the most important thing is having good grain on the wood that you're using. So an example of good grain, so this is a piece of ash, and this is a piece of maple, and both of these would be good for top making because they have very consistent grain. Now let me get something to kind of point with here. So if you look, the grain on both of these is pretty tight and consistent in terms of spacing, and it doesn't have too much curve to it. Now, you know, a top is not this big around, so you're really only looking at about, you know, this section right here. And in that section, the grain is pretty even and consistent. And also on this one, same thing, pretty even spacing, pretty tight and consistent, not a whole lot of curve to it, not wavy, no knots, pretty clear, straight grain. And the reason that matters is because in a top, you need both sides of the top to be balanced to each other, and the easiest way to make that happen in wood is to have consistent grain across the entire width of the top. So this one is probably almost perfect. If you look at the grain in this, it's almost perfectly consistent the whole width of the top. Similar in this one, a little messed up spot there, but so this one is, I believe that's maple. And you could use pretty much any old hardwood you want as long as the grain is pretty good. So as long as you got a nice, even, consistent grain, you're good to go. Today I'm going to turn my top in this walnut that's already been kind of roughed out from scrap of a different project I was working on. So we're going to use it. It's not grain-wise completely ideal. You can see it's not straight the whole width, but you don't know. We're going to see how well it works out. I think it'll be okay. And to do that, I'm going to turn it in my chuck. So this is a lathe chuck. This is the one I have. It's a pretty cheap Wood River version that I've had for quite some time, and it's held up just fine. You don't have to have a chuck to make a top, but it does make it a little easier in my opinion. One other consideration for top making is how your dimensions and overall design. Sometimes you mess up and make the top all wrong, and then you have to cut it by hand and it doesn't look quite even, so don't do that. This is a pretty decent shape and design, kind of an acorny shape to it. I'm not completely in love with the handle up here, but it works. I think ideally the top, the handle part that you're going to hang on to is about 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more, because it's a little bit easier to get your fingers on. One like this looks cool, but this is actually a little bit harder to hang on to. It's so smooth that when you go to spin it, it's not as easy to do. So it still makes a great top, and it does spin a long time, but it's harder to get your fingers on it. And this is definitely too thin, so don't do that. Try to shoot for about 1/4 inch on the handle end, and you'll be good to go. So let's go put this guy on and let's make a top. Put a little finish on it. So apparently had a little crack in my wood, you can kind of see right there, but I don't think that's going to affect us overall. So let's see how she spins.